And we are live. You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience and have continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 6 seasons. Let's make it 7 in 2020. But enough of me. I'm here for you on today's episode of the FV Show. We are continuing our Week 2 game recaps, breaking down every single Week 2 game, all through the lens of fantasy football. Up next, we're going to be talking about the Denver Broncos versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you are excited for this game recap, be sure to hit that like button down below, like an open receiver downfield, and also smash that subscribe button like a power running back up the middle so that you never miss a video from me. Last but not least, you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. The interactions I've been having across all of my social media platforms have been really fun, answering some start-sit questions, trade offers, and anything in the realm of fantasy football. If you're new around here, you guys will see how we do highlights, and if you are already subscribed, well, you already know. So let's jump right in, shall we? The Denver Broncos taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field. Early first quarter, and Drew Lock is going to get absolutely crushed here. Fumbles the ball for a turnover, and Pittsburgh is going to take full advantage of this opportunity in just a little bit. But you see Lock is slow to get up, favoring that right shoulder, limping a little bit. You can see that shoulder's kind of sagging. It was not a good look. We're going to see the replay here in just a moment, and that full body weight of 48 is just going to land on that shoulder, just crushing Drew Lock underneath him. The initial reports were it was an AC joint sprain. We'll see what comes later on in the week. Later in that same drive, though, off of the turnover, James Conner, 2-yard touchdown. James Conner, when he's on the field, he needs to be in your lineup. The issue is he always going to stay on the field? That's something that remains to be seen. In the second quarter now, Chase Claypool, welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is your moment. An 84-yard touchdown for the rookie out of Notre Dame, a guy whose role I wasn't sure what it was going to be going into this season. So to see him succeed like this this early in Week 2, nonetheless, very, very cool to see. In the second, again, Jeff Driscoll, is now in at quarterback to replace Drew Lock, and he's going to find Courtland Sutton for a 40-yard catch. And unfortunate news just came out about Courtland Sutton. It turns out that he tore his ACL in this game. It was speculated to just be cramps, but it was much worse than that. In the second half action now, Noah Fant, 20-yard touchdown from Driscoll. Here come the Broncos. It really was just a devastating. I keep thinking about that injury for Sutton. It literally just broke about 20 minutes ago, so I'm trying to process all the thoughts from it. Anyways, moving on forward with this game, Diontae Johnson, just the clear number one wide receiver here in Pittsburgh. 28-yard touchdown from him. I believe he had 10 targets again. In the fourth, the Broncos trying to push for a comeback. It's Melvin Gordon this time with a 16-yard touchdown catch. And the Broncos are not done yet. They are just down 6. But later on in the fourth, we're going to see this catch one more time, actually. And Melvin Gordon, just what a play. What a play by him to secure the ball over the shoulder grab right into the end zone, just cross the goal line. In the fourth, Denver trying to make the comeback. Noah Fant with a bobbling catch to move the chains and just really put the Denver Broncos in position to score and take the lead. The officials are conferring, trying to decide if he was in or out. We're going to see this one more time. He was, in fact, in, and just the bobble off the fingertips, secures it 1-2, inbounds, and he is in. That's a nice little boost for your fantasy day if you started Noah Fant. But ultimately, James Conner is going to put this game away with a 59-yard touchdown, and he's just gone. He's just gone. He should have scored here, but he got a little bit too fancy and he couldn't outrun the trailing defenders. But that's going to do it from this game. The Steelers win 26-21. Jeff Driscoll coming in for Drew Lock. 18 of 34, 256 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Driscoll looked pretty good. We saw what he did last year at quarterback for the Lions when Stafford went down. Driscoll should be okay. Melvin Gordon, 19 carries, 70 yards, also caught 2 passes and that touchdown. Courtland Sutton, in his first game back after missing week 1 due to that hamstring injury, 3 catches for 66 yards, but again, he did leave the game early. He left the game early because of cramps, but it was much worse than that. There was actually a report that came out this morning saying that they feared that the injury was much more significant. And then literally about an hour and a half later, it was reported that Courtland Sutton did in fact tear his ACL. Jeudy, the rookie, got absolutely leveled in this game on a big hit. How he got up, not entirely sure. 7 targets, 4 catches for 62 yards. And once again, Drew Lock did leave the game in the first quarter with that shoulder injury. They're labeling it an AC joint sprain, but honestly, I thought it looked much worse than that. As far as the Steelers, Big Ben, 29 of 41, 311 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Also had an interception. James Conner, again, when he is healthy, you play him every single fucking week. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. 16 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. You love to see that coming from him every single week. Like, that is literally his floor when he is on the field. Diontae Johnson, again, led the team in targets, 13 targets, 8 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown. And Chase Claypool obviously had that monster touchdown catch as well, that 84-yarder, which really boosted his day, all things considered. However, we can't forget about Juju Smith-Schuster, who put up a solid game. Only had 48 yards receiving, but hauled in 7 of 8 targets, and that's going to give him a nice floor for PPR. All right, let's switch cams here real quick. And let's talk this game. Let's talk some implications here. All right, we got 2 major injuries to talk about. First being Drew Lock, second being Courtland Sutton. I'm going to start off with Courtland Sutton because I think that's the bigger one here, right? Courtland Sutton's progression in the NFL has been unbelievable. He is going to be a future star in this league. The 1-2 punch, him and Jeudy, it's going to be a force to be reckoned with for NFL defenses for years to come. So seeing a guy like this get injured in this way, like, there wasn't even like a whole lot of like buzz around it per se, right? It was just like Courtland Sutton has left the game like with a cramp or maybe like a slight knee issue. They're just gonna rule him out, okay? And then all of a sudden, wait, this injury appears to be a lot more serious than we were led on to believe. And 2 hours after that, Courtland Sutton ACL tear. This is tough. And the reason why this is tough is because the Denver Broncos offense, specifically with Drew Lock, who again unfortunately was injured as well, he was supposed to have a cast of weapons to let the Broncos know if Lock would be the guy for this team. And now Sutton is hurt. Philip Lindsay has turf toe, and he's going to be missing multiple weeks. I believe it's actually a toe sprain. So we don't know what his status is going to be moving forward. And all of a sudden, this Denver Broncos offense, which had so much excitement going into the season, everyone is now just dropping like flies, and that really is unfortunate because this offense could have been so fun to watch this season. On the bright side, like, if there is a 1+ thing for a Courtland Sutton injury, Jeudy. I'm so excited to see what he can be as a number 1 option for an NFL team. Remember, the reason why I had Jeudy below Henry Ruggs coming into this season after the draft was because of the fact that I knew that Henry Ruggs could cement himself as the number 1 option. Whereas Jeudy, he was going to be battling targets with Courtland Sutton, and while I do love the talent of Jeudy, I didn't like that he'd be splitting the work with that, and obviously there were a few more mouths to feed in Denver as well. So I'm really excited to see what Jeudy can do as the guy. His NFL progression is now going to come along faster than a lot of us were expecting it to be. And while he's not going to have Drew Lock throwing him the ball, unfortunately, Jeff Driscoll can still get him the ball in space, and that makes me pretty amped for what Jeudy can do rest of season. Drew Lock. I mentioned this before coming into the year that Drew Lock was a guy who I was just really energized to see because I do believe in the talent. We saw last year he went 4-1 as the Broncos starter in his 5 starts, and I feel like everybody in Denver just felt like Lock was going to be the savior of this franchise, right? Since Peyton Manning, they've had multiple quarterbacks and none of them have worked out. And Drew Lock looked to be the guy who was going to actually pan out for them. And now this injury happened. Luckily, it is just being labeled as that AC joint sprain. So he may only miss a week or 2, which is great because then we still get to see what he can do in this full season. or at least a majority of the season. So long-term, like rest of the season, I'm not too concerned about Drew Lock, but it is just a bummer for Denver Broncos fans to lose their quarterback like this for at least just a few weeks or so. Moving over to the Pittsburgh Steelers now, James Conner, like we'll start with Big Ben. Actually, I want to start with Big Ben. Big Ben still has it, right? This is the thing that we were really concerned about coming into the year. Getting up there in age, an elbow injury that not a whole lot of quarterbacks suffer. What would he look like? Threw the ball 41 times, completed 29 of his passes. Like 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like Big Ben is here. Big Ben's still here. He still has it. His weapons are still better than ever almost, you can argue. James Conner, when healthy, is excellent. Benny Snell, we saw week 1, can get it done. He unfortunately didn't play a whole lot in this game. Also had a fumble. But Diontae Johnson, breakout star here. 8 catches, 13 targets, 92 yards, and that touchdown, as I mentioned. You guys saw the highlight of that. He's had, I think it's like a 22% target share in this offense. So Diontae Johnson is the clear-cut number 1 here. And Juju moving back to the slot is fine because he can still get it done. He's still seeing 8 targets a game, so I'm not too concerned about Juju's production moving forward rest of the season. Chase Claypool, he only had 3 catches, but that monster 84-yard touchdown is going to boost that floor. For me, the thing about Claypool specifically is I just want to see some level of consistency, right? In week 1, didn't do a whole lot, if anything at all, off the top of my head. And then in week 2, he has this monster touchdown, but if he doesn't have that, he wasn't anything for you. In particular, he would have gotten you, I think, maybe like a half a point or a point and a half without that touchdown. So now I just want to see his development and his progression in this offense with Big Ben, because it looked like the Big Ben is comfortable throwing him the football. And then, of course, James Washington didn't do anything spectacular, but he might just be a thorn in the side of your hip throughout the rest of the season if you own Diontae Johnson or Juju Smith-Schuster. Eric Ebron, nothing special. 3 catches for 43 yards. I'd like to see his utilization be a bit higher, but honestly, I don't have a whole lot of thoughts for the Steelers. Like, the Steelers basically are just confirming everything that I thought was going to happen this season. And that was, last year was garbage, throw it out. This is the new season, literally go back to 2018 and what this offense looked like, and that's what you're going to get in 2020. Just scrap 2019 entirely. But I think that's going to do it for my Denver Broncos and Pittsburgh Steelers Week 2 game recap, excuse me. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. We're trying to do this for every single Week 2 game, so be sure to stick around for all of those. You can also follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. And again, thank you so much for watching. Remember, people come and go, but fantasy championships are forever, and I will see you in the next video.